The Desperate Call, 770 words. The story opens with the peaceful Valen Republic, a collection of small worlds known for their advanced medical technology and peaceful nature. The Valen are tall, thin beings with pale blue skin who have spent centuries avoiding conflict through diplomacy and trade. Their tranquil existence shatters when the Korath Empire arrives. The Korath are a militaristic species that conquers worlds for resources. They are massive armored creatures who view the Valen's peaceful ways as weakness. Ambassador Rill, the Valen's chief diplomat, stands before the Galactic Council in desperation. The Korath fleet surrounds 3 of their 7 worlds. The Valen have no military beyond basic security forces. Their weapons are designed for hunting small creatures, not warfare. We need support, Rill pleads to the Council. Just enough to make the Korath think twice, a show of force, a deterrent. Most Council members offer sympathy but little else. The Korath Empire is too powerful, too aggressive. Nobody wants to provoke them over a few peaceful worlds. Then the human delegate, Captain Ross, steps forward. Humans are new to galactic politics, having joined the Council only 5 years ago. Most species view them as primitive but curious about their rapid technological advancement. We'll help, Ross says simply. The Council is surprised. Humans have a small presence in space, maybe 50 worlds, a modest fleet. What could they possibly do against the Korath Empire? Rill is grateful, but worried. He asks for perhaps a dozen ships, just enough to make the Korath pause and negotiate. Ross nods. We'll send what you need. The Korath commander, General Vex, intercepts the communication. He laughs at the mention of human involvement. These soft primates dare to interfere with Korath expansion? He sends a message to the human homeworld. Send your little fleet. We will crush them and then crush you. But General Vex has made a critical error. He doesn't understand human nature. When threatened, humans don't just defend, they overwhelm. Back on Earth, the human leadership convenes. They review the Korath message, their attacks on the Valen, and their threat against humanity. Admiral Kane, head of Human Fleet Command, addresses the room. They want to see our fleet? Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our friends. The order goes out across human space. This isn't just about helping the Valen anymore. The Korath made it personal. Part 1 ends with massive human shipyards suddenly blazing with activity, construction crews working around the clock, and reserve fleets being activated across dozens of worlds. The Gathering Storm, 770 words. 3. Weeks after the initial plea, Ambassador Rill waits anxiously at the edge of Valen space. The Korath have begun orbital bombardments of civilian areas on the occupied worlds. Time is running out. Long-range sensors detect incoming ships. Rill expects to see a small human patrol fleet, maybe 15 ships at most. Instead, his sensors go wild. The first wave emerges from hyperspace, 50 human dreadnoughts, their hulls scarred from previous battles, bristling with weapons that dwarf anything in the Valen arsenal. Then comes the second wave. 100 heavy cruisers followed by carrier groups launching thousands of fighter craft. Rill stares in disbelief as wave after wave of human ships continue arriving. Support vessels, troop transports, supply ships, mobile repair stations, even massive constructor ships that immediately begin building defensive platforms. Within 6 hours, the humans have deployed over 800 combat vessels to Valen space. Admiral Kane's flagship, the Retribution, establishes contact. Ambassador Rill, this is Admiral Kane. We're here to provide the support you requested. Rill can barely speak. Admiral, we asked for help, not an invasion force. Kane's voice is calm but steel-hard. The Korath threatened human worlds, Ambassador. We don't do things halfway. Meanwhile, General Vex receives reports of the human fleet buildup. His initial amusement turns to concern, then alarm. The humans have brought more ships than the Korath have in this entire sector. But Vex is proud and stubborn. The Korath Empire has never backed down from inferior species. He sends word to the Korath homeworld, requesting reinforcements, but decides to test human resolve first. He orders an attack on a human supply convoy. It's a mistake that will echo through galactic history. The supply convoy turns out to be escorted by 3 human battle groups. The Korath patrol that attacks it is obliterated in minutes. Human weapons technology proves far more advanced than anyone suspected. The battle is recorded and transmitted across the galaxy. Other species watch in shock as human ships display firepower that rivals the greatest military powers. But the humans aren't done positioning forces. Intelligence reports reveal that Earth has mobilized its entire reserve fleet. Ships are arriving from the furthest human colonies. Even civilian vessels have been converted to support roles. On the Valan homeworld, civilians watch the sky fill with human ships. Children point at the massive vessels, their parents torn between gratitude and terror at the scale of the response. Rill meets with Admiral Kane aboard the Retribution. The human warship is 3 times larger than the biggest Valan vessel, its corridors bustling with Marines and crew preparing for battle. Admiral, the Korath have superior numbers overall, Rill warns. If they bring their full fleet? Kane smiles grimly. Ambassador, you're thinking like a diplomat. We're not here to match their numbers. He shows real tactical displays of human positions. The fleet isn't arranged defensively around Valan worlds. Instead, they've formed offensive formations pointed directly at Korath territory. We're here to end this threat permanently, Kane explains. The Korath wanted to see what humans do when provoked. They're about to learn. First contact, human style, 1770 words. General Vex finally grasps the scope of what he's facing when his scouts report human fleet movements. They aren't defending the Valan worlds. They're advancing toward Korath space in massive battle formations. The humans have deployed forces that could conquer half the sector. Vex attempts diplomacy for the first time in his career. He opens communications with Admiral Kane, expecting to negotiate from a position of strength based on the Korath Empire's reputation. Human Admiral, you have made your point. We are prepared to discuss terms. Kane's response is ice cold. General, you threatened human worlds, you attacked our ships, there are no terms. But surely reasonable beings can. You had your chance for reasonable when you ignored the Valan's diplomatic overtures. Now you deal with humans. The line cuts. Vex finds himself in an impossible position. The Korath Empire's main fleets are scattered across their territory, maintaining control of dozens of conquered worlds. Pulling them back would invite rebellion. But the human force in Valan space represents a concentrated threat unlike anything the Korath have faced. He decides to call what he believes is a human bluff. The Korath begin advancing their local fleets toward human positions, confident that the humans won't actually attack a superior galactic power. They're wrong. Admiral Kane doesn't wait for the Korath to organize. Human doctrine emphasizes overwhelming force applied rapidly. The moment Korath ships move toward human positions, Kane launches his assault. The Battle of Valan's Edge becomes the stuff of legend. Human ships demonstrate capabilities that shock the galaxy. Their energy shields absorb Korath weapons that should have been devastating. Their own weapons punch through Korath armor like paper. But it's not just the technology, it's the tactics. Where other species engage in formal battle lines, humans swarm from multiple angles. They use asteroid fields for cover, coordinate fighter strikes with capital ship barrages, and employ electronic warfare that blinds Korath sensors. The battle lasts 14 hours. When it ends, the Korath fleet is shattered. General Vex's flagship limps away with less than a third of his original force, but the humans aren't finished. As the Korath retreat, human pursuit forces follow them. Every Korath ship that tries to regroup finds itself under attack by human strike forces that seem to appear from nowhere. The other galactic powers watch in amazement as humanity demonstrates a level of military coordination never before seen. Human fleets operate with precision across light years of space. Their communications somehow immune to jamming, their supply lines unbreakable. Ambassador Rill observes the aftermath from a Valan monitoring station. The 3 occupied Valan worlds are free, their orbital defenses restored by human engineering teams. But the human fleet shows no signs of standing down. Admiral Kane, Rill ventures during a diplomatic meeting. The immediate threat is over. Surely your mission is complete? Kane studies tactical displays showing Korath territory. Ambassador, you asked for support. The Korath Empire still exists. They still have the capacity to threaten your people and ours. Our mission isn't complete until that threat is permanently resolved. The implications hit real like a physical blow. The humans aren't just defending the Valen worlds. They're planning to dismantle the entire Korath Empire. Across the galaxy, other species begin re-evaluating their understanding of humanity. These aren't the primitive newcomers they thought. The humans have been quietly building a war machine that rivals anything in galactic history. Emperor Cross of the Korath Empire receives reports of the defeat at Valen's Edge. For the first time in centuries, Korath territory faces invasion by an outside force. He mobilizes the full might of the Empire, over 3,000 warships from across Korath space. If the humans want a war, he'll give them one that will end their species. But intelligence reports trouble him. Human forces aren't remaining in Valen space. They're advancing on multiple fronts, striking Korath outposts and supply bases with surgical precision. Most disturbing of all, the humans seem to know exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage to Korath operations. The Human Way of War, 770 words. Emperor Cross learns the hard way that humans don't fight like other species. Traditional galactic warfare involves massive fleet engagements where superior numbers and firepower determine victory. The Korath Empire built their reputation on bringing overwhelming force to single decisive battles. Humans fight differently. Admiral Kane divides his forces into dozens of smaller fleets that strike across the entire Korath frontier simultaneously. While Emperor Cross masses his fleets for a grand battle, human forces systematically destroy Korath infrastructure. Supply depots vanish overnight. Communication relays go silent. Mining operations halt as human raiders appear without warning, destroy key equipment, and disappear before reinforcements arrive. The genius of human strategy becomes clear to galactic observers. They're not trying to conquer Korath territory. They're making it impossible for the Korath to maintain their empire. General Vex, now leading Korath defensive efforts, finds himself fighting shadows. Human ships appear on sensors, engage briefly, then vanish using stealth technology the Korath can't counter. How do they move so fast? He demands of his intelligence officers. The answer horrifies him. Humans have been building hidden supply bases throughout neutral space for years. They have fuel and ammunition stockpiled in systems the Korath never considered strategic. But the most terrifying discovery comes when a captured human pilot reveals their communication system. The humans aren't just coordinating across light years. They're sharing real-time tactical data between every ship in their fleet. Each human captain knows the position and status of every friendly unit. They fight not as individual ships, but as a single galaxy-spanning organism. Emperor Cross finally assembles his grand fleet, 2,800 warships, the largest force in Korath history. He will crush the human invasion at its source and then burn their homeworld to ash. The two fleets meet at the Nexus system, a strategic crossroads that controls access to 3 major trade routes. The battle seems hopeless for humanity. They bring only 400 ships against nearly 3,000 Korath vessels, but Admiral Kane has spent weeks preparing the battlefield. When the Korath fleet arrives, they find the Nexus system transformed. Humans have seeded the asteroid fields with automated weapons. Platforms. They've positioned supply ships to provide overlapping defensive fire. Most importantly, they've turned the system's unstable star into a weapon. The Battle of Nexus begins with the largest space engagement in galactic history. The Korath advance in their traditional formation, a massive wedge designed to break enemy lines through sheer force. Against any other species, it would work. Humans don't fight in lines. Kane's ships scatter throughout the system, using asteroids and debris for cover. They strike at Korath flanks, withdraw, then attack from new angles. The Korath find themselves fighting in all directions simultaneously, but numbers still matter. Despite human advantages, the sheer scale of the Korath fleet begins to tell. Human ships take heavy casualties as Korath forces adapt to their tactics. That's when Kane springs his trap. Human engineering teams have spent weeks destabilizing the system's star. At the critical moment, they trigger a controlled solar flare that sweeps across the battlefield. Human ships equipped with specialized shielding weather the radiation storm. Korath vessels, unprepared for such tactics, find their electronics fried and their crews incapacitated. In the chaos that follows, human ships methodically destroy the crippled Korath fleet. Emperor Cross himself dies when his flagship's shields fail during the solar bombardment. The destruction of the Grand Fleet breaks the Korath Empire's back. Without their main military force, rebellions erupt across Korath territory. Subject species, inspired by humanity's example, rise up against their oppressors. But the humans aren't done. As the Korath Empire crumbles, Admiral Kane receives new orders from Earth. The Galactic Council, terrified by humanity's display of military might, has requested that humans restore order to the collapsing Korath territories. Rill watches human peacekeeping forces spread across former Korath worlds, establishing temporary governments and protecting civilian populations. The humans are more than conquerors, they're nation builders. What have we unleashed? He wonders aloud. His aide, a young Valen diplomat named Tor, provides the answer. The future, Ambassador, whether we're ready or not. The new Galactic. Order 6 months after the Battle of Nexus, the galaxy has been transformed. The Korath Empire is gone, its territory divided among the species it once oppressed. Human peacekeeping forces maintain order, while new governments establish themselves. But the real change is in how other species view humanity. Ambassador Rill addresses the reformed Galactic Council from its new headquarters on New Geneva, a human world that has become the de facto center of galactic government. We asked for support, he tells the assembled delegates. Humanity gave us liberation. The statistics are staggering. In 6 months of conflict, humans destroyed over 4,000 Korath military vessels, while losing fewer than 200 of their own. They've freed 37 enslaved species and established stable governments on dozens of worlds. More importantly, they've done it without seeking conquest for themselves. Admiral Kane, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and head of Galactic Security Forces, addresses concerns about human dominance. We didn't seek this role, he tells skeptical delegates. But when peaceful species are threatened, humans respond. That's who we are. His words ring true because of human actions. As former Korath territories stabilize, human forces withdraw. They've kept no conquests, claimed no territory, demanded no tribute. Instead, they've offered something unprecedented: protection. The Human Defense Compact becomes the fastest-growing alliance in galactic history. Small, peaceful species flock to join, knowing that attack on one member means war with humanity. But not everyone is pleased with the new order. The hegemony of Zar, a militant alliance of warrior species, views human dominance as a threat to their way of life. Their leader, War Chief Grimm, begins building a coalition to challenge human power. They grow soft with peace, he tells his followers. The humans showed strength once, but strength unused becomes weakness. Intelligence reports reach Admiral Kane about hegemony military buildup. The humans face a choice: strike first or wait for the inevitable challenge. Kane chooses a third option that surprises everyone. He visits War Chief Grimm personally, arriving in a single ship with minimal escort. The meeting takes place on the Hegemony flagship, surrounded by hundreds of Zar warships. You came alone, Grimm observes, impressed despite himself. I came in peace, Kane replies, but not unarmed. He shows Grimm tactical displays of human fleet positions. While they've been talking, human forces have quietly moved into position around every major hegemony world. You could destroy us, Grimm realizes, but we won't, Kane says. Because destruction isn't the human way. We offer you the same choice we offered the Korath: coexistence or conflict. Grimm studies the human admiral. Unlike the Korath, who conquered through brutality, the humans demonstrate power without using it. What do you want from us? Nothing, Kane answers honestly. Fight if you must, trade if you will, live as you choose. Just don't threaten those under our protection. The Hegemony War Council debates for days. Finally, Grimm makes his decision. The Tsar acknowledge human strength, he announces. We will not seek conflict with those who fight with honor. The crisis passes without bloodshed, but its resolution sends a clear message across the galaxy. Humanity's power is real, immediate, and backed by the will to use it. Years later, Ambassador Rill reflects on the changes humanity brought to galactic civilization. Wars still occur, but they're smaller, briefer affairs. The threat of human intervention prevents major powers from crushing smaller species. Trade flourishes under human protection. Scientific cooperation reaches new heights as peaceful species share knowledge without fear of exploitation. Most remarkably, other species begin adopting human military doctrines and diplomatic approaches. The human way of overwhelming response becomes the new standard for galactic conflict resolution. Rill finds Admiral Kane, now elderly but still sharp, reviewing reports from across human space. "Any regrets?" Rill asks. Kane considers the question. "We never intended to become galactic police, we just wanted to help our friends. And now? Now we keep the peace because someone has to. The galaxy is safer, but the responsibility weighs heavy." Rill nods understanding. "The price of being the strongest is that everyone expects you to use that strength wisely." "Exactly. The Korath used fear to maintain order. We try to use hope." The story ends with humanity firmly established as the galaxy's dominant military power, but wielding that power with restraint and wisdom. They had asked for support. Humanity had delivered an invasion force. In doing so, they had changed not just the balance of power, but the very nature of galactic civilization itself. The age of conquest was over. The age of protection had begun, and it was thoroughly, unmistakably human.